How are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. No complaints so far. I think you can tell that I'm happy.
I can see that. I can see that.
So to start off, can you briefly explain what emotional intelligence is and why it's so important in our daily lives?
Emotional intelligence is very important. I can safely start with the definition. So, emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage one's feeling as well as other people's emotions. So, it's very critical in all spaces that we do understand how our emotions are, and emotional intelligence is categorized into 4 components. So if someone is said to be emotionally aware, that actually means that they are self-aware, they are socially aware, and then their relationships as well, they know that I am also managing them so well. And the 4th aspect is self-management or self-regulation. So let's say someone says some things to you, are you able to regulate yourself to say, no, I won't respond to that? So that's what emotional intelligence is all about.
So this is where it comes in. Sipho, I won't dignify that with the response. I understand. I wish it.
Yes.
Emotional intelligence.
So sometimes emotional intelligence, was what to respond to, not to respond to.
Yes.
So not like emotional intelligence.
This is deep, my guy. This is deep.
I'm the phenomenon responding.
So masukukangela indaba zama emotions. I know that everyone has an emotional being within them. Mm-hmm. And how can one begin to recognize their own emotions and get a better understanding of the impact those emotions have on their decisions and relationships?
One way a person can recognize their emotions or how they react to a certain situation in terms of their relationships, whether it's at work or whether it's in a different setting altogether, you just have to know. Let's say, for instance, I do say something to someone, or let's say maybe my boss tends to have this let's say a way of just posting or giving me deadlines when they know that I have a lot of things going on. So it comes to me to say, how can I react, or how do I react to certain situations?
You said you work well under pressure, man.
Sometimes we can say that, but in another world or in another area, you might find that what you have written on your CV might not be a certain phenomenal environment that you have. So you just have to, what we call it, you can either write down your emotions to say, on a particular day, how did I react to a certain person, or how did I maneuver through this? So once you know that, yes, once you know that you are journaling and you are taking account of your emotions or how you reacted, then you are able to know that what triggers those certain emotions or certain tantrums that you have at a particular moment.
Okay, what are the practical tips for managing our emotions, and especially in stressful or high pressure situations?
So one thing that you can do when you are self-aware, let's say you can meditate. You can decide to say, when the room gets heated up, you can decide to distance yourself from that situation and decide not to say anything. This is in the case where maybe someone says something that is totally off point. And then the other thing as well, you need to be empathetic. You need to put yourself into the shoes of the other person. Let's say, for instance, I say something bad to you, or maybe I sort of like ridicule you on a certain matter. Do you take yourself in my shoes to say, was this person joking, or was this person trying to literally be happy with me? So if you do not have that discernment or that differentiation to place a boundary on a certain situation, that actually means you are going to just erupt. When in another setup, it might not need you to be that. Like, we can look at the situation where Chris Rock put out a joke on Will Smith, but Will Smith take it literally like, this person is attacking me. But in the literal sense, it was just a joke which was meant to make people laugh and just relate to it.
I And with the
Coach.
That's a setup where you,
Napanda kula emotional intelligence, napanda ku reaction intelligence. Yefuna kana.
yes, that's when you
So
say,
napanda coach ukuthi woman enze.
that's when you say, no, I won't react to this. I'm way better above this.
Coach wena ukati mchova. Wayibona emotional intelligence emchoveni.
I do.
So let's look at emotional intelligence and how it affects our ability to build and maintain healthy relationships, both personally and professionally.
Yes.
So when in a professional setup or a relationship setup, the way your emotions are determine whether you're going to be an effective husband, an effective leader, or an effective person generally that relates well with the society. So when you are going to look at your emotional intelligence, for instance, you're going to look at the way that you resolve your conflicts with the other person. To say, let's say we are in a disagreement and we don't necessarily maybe are in sync with what we are discussing or with the matter at hand. So what is it that you have that that comes or clicks in your mind to say, no, this person is trying to build me up? Sometimes when you are in a conversation, or sometimes when we are in the streets out there and you are trying to let the other person see your point, they might decide to be defensive. They might decide to just walk away in the middle of the conversation, and you start wondering what is happening here. So when you put yourself to the aspect that, yes, not only me, I'm bit emotion right now, but you can also decide what happens next when you are confronted with that certain emotion or that certain reaction. So at the end of it all, when you become fully fledged in terms of your self-awareness, in terms of your relationship management, in terms of your self-regulation, to say, this is me, I'm not doing it right now.
Relationship management.
I'm new to this. I want my
relationship management.
My kuruma lokuvere ngicabanga abantu emapower nje ukuthi laphana koda emotional intelligence epower.
Yes.
Anytime umathenga ngiyocine sejayile uthiwa uzezibhoza ngoba wena ngothenga emotion. So what role does empathy play in emotional intelligence, and how can someone develop their skill further?
By that, let's say there's a quote that I normally hear. Maybe I'll just rephrase it in my own understanding. Let's say, for instance, you are in a conversation, and then you try to put at play what is called active listening. So active listening is trying to or trying to see the other person's perspective from your own lenses, right? Let's say, for instance, we have a particular argument. Yes, we have an argument, or a particular individual doing something, and maybe that certain situation is not good at all. Or maybe that person, or maybe the employee has not put out maybe the certain assignment within the required deadline. But you, as a person that understands that this person is a lot going on, you now try to put yourself in their shoes to say, maybe they have a baby they were feeding, or they have a stressful situation that is happening at home, or when maybe they were trying to come to work, or they're trying to come to an appointment, the time or the environment was not very conducive for them. So now you're trying to be in their shoes and try to let all these other factors that you are thinking of, and decide that I will not be harsh on this person. So when eventually you try to do that, you are being empathetic, you are loving the other person, and then
regardless of beauties.
Yes.
Regardless of 20 missed calls.
Yes.
I still have to be.
Yes.
Yes. But what is she going through? But you think you phone like a 20 guy Arabi phone.
Yes.
I go through a phone. Yes. Wendy, welcome to the show. She says she's new and she wants to understand how you can manage relationships, and maybe while you're responding to that as well, can we look at some of the common signs that show that umuntu needs to improve their emotional intelligence? You find someone going through a continuous vicious cycle of failed relationships. Are there certain cycles that might need to be broken?
Yes. Let's say, for instance, if you are in a relationship, right, and then maybe the boyfriend that you are with, or the girlfriend that you are with, is very narcissistic. But simply because they are narcissistic, you're saying, let me just hang on to this guy because maybe there's potential benefits, or there's maybe there's money that they are giving you, right? And then in other spaces is where maybe you are found, or you just find yourself yelling at people for no particular reason. Or the other factor is that whenever things maybe go south or don't go the way that you want them to, you may find yourself blaming others in terms and then you don't take accountability for that particular situation. So whenever you see something like this, eventually it actually means that person lacks emotional intelligence.
Did you say yelling at people or shouting at people for no reason? I'm just saying,
like you have emotional intelligence.
Yes.
No journey.
No klabalala.
Like speak properly. We are civilized individuals. You can't just yell at people and expect us to be like, okay.
It's like
yelling at people. Is a new style of communicator. Maybe I'm a yelling person.
It depends with the setting.
Things just got personal.
Yes.
Personal.
If you are in a funny and relaxing setup, it might be understandable. But if we are like this, you start saying
Yes. And what are some strategies for improving emotional intelligence
over time? I think you might try to journal like we first discussed, and then you might want to also engage some other people, like what we call feedback loop. Let's say, for instance, I have Mrs.G, or I have anyone in my particular space or corner. They tell me how do I react to situations, or how do I talk to people. Sometimes they may have pointers on how I behave, my behavioral patterns as a human being. And then the other thing as well, you might just want to look at yourself holistically as a person, to say, do I relate with people so well, and what is it that I need to work with. And then once you identify those areas that you do need to really work with, there's a book by Daniel Goleman called Emotional Intelligence. So maybe the listeners might want to research and read more on it. It actually dwells more on how you can improve your emotional intelligence as a human being. Sometimes it's not all situations, or it's not all conversations that we need to respond to. Sometimes you just need to walk away and say, this is not worth my time.
So to Zimbabwe, emotional intelligence, I call lacking is we see a lack of emotional intelligence.
Yes, I'm sure it's very stressful at the beginning of the month and what is happening. So, but you need to try to rise above it and
above your salary.
Yes, and give yourself pep talk and say,
it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine. Things will happen in my favor. So once you do that, you are, you are building, that resilience within you, and you are building all those hormones, the positive hormones. They are going to flow within you, and then at the end of it all, you see that those stressful situations, they are going to become better.
If you've just joined us from the Skyz Metro FM, every Tuesday we talk self-improvement with Coach Carl Kunalapa on the Drive Time Show, and I'm just kuluma ngayo emotional intelligence, and he's helping us gain a better understanding. Conflict is all around us, in families, as in fan, also everywhere. Conflict is all around us, and how can emotional intelligence help us with the conflict resolution? How can understanding and navigating emotional intelligence help us there?
So in conflict resolutions now, what you are primarily going to do is that you are not only going to rely on your emotions when you are tackling certain situations or certain matters, but you are going to appeal to your logic as well, to say, what is it that I need to do right now? Because sometimes we may be biased in terms of how we feel, or we may take decisions, or we may take matters in our own hands. Like if you look at judges, for instance, you have to have that logic and that emotion and that aspect of saying, how can I benefit, or how can the other person stand to have this decision that I'm making right now. So if you base your decisions on emotions, you just have to look at the aspect where what is the other person going through, and you are now taking cognizance of how you feel and how the other person feel. So in the whole gist of things, now you are going to make a better decision simply because you have taken the initiative or the prerogative that this situation at hand needs me to be aware of everything that is happening right now. So once you get to do that, you're going to see that you're going to be effective in terms of your decision making, your leadership roles, or just being there. Because sometimes it's not most of the time that we need to be very aggressive on a person, but we just need to see it. Maybe they didn't mean it, or they didn't really want to do that, but because of certain circumstances they were forced to. So now when you get to know that, it helps us.
And sometimes Friday makes us do certain things. Saturday, and then Monday, that's when we become emotionally intelligent.
Okay.
What was I doing? Yes.
Yes. Then see the emotional intelligence. Then we go back to our emotionally unintelligent on a Friday. So for listeners who want to get started on this journey, what's the first step that you can take to begin enhancing their emotional intelligence?
Just be self-aware. Just take cognizance of what you are feeling, and then it starts from there. And then you get to have maybe a diary or whatever it is that you need to be writing down to track your emotions on a daily basis.
Hey, I'm trying to imagine my diary. I was a dear diary. I find myself having... Coach Paul, thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Timber, someone has been assisted. Someone is definitely going to be making a few adjustments. Will leave you with an amazing song.